out the dark and don't be ashamed. You're late. Let's have a conversation on what we face every day. Tune into your late talk show. It makes us feel good just to know we're not alone. No more will we feel isolated and cast aside. I want you to come out the dark. Just don't be afraid of your heart. So don't be ashamed. It's all the same. Stay in your lane. You're late. It's whatever your real life looks like. Stay in your lane. Come out the dark and don't be ashamed. You're late. Let's have a conversation on what we face every day. It's your Lane Talk Show with Coach Trish, Hanna.
Hello. Welcome everyone to your Lane Talk Show with your coach Trish Hanna, broadcasting live from the beautiful Nassau, Bahamas. Listen to me, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. It's about 91 degrees outside. Hot, right? It's hot. So I hope you're drinking your water. I hope you are staying cool and hydrated. All right, please, especially with your pets. Make sure you make sure you had clean, fresh water for your pets today. Come on, let's go. Let's go ahead and do it. Take a minute. Go. I'll wait on you. I'll do some announcements. I ain't gonna get to the juicy part of the show yet and tell you to make sure your pets have their water and then come back. All right. Let me tell y'all, for those who are tuning in for the first time, Your Lane Talk Show was created to educate, encourage, and empower women of all ages. And although this is a women's talk show, I have you to know that we have a lot of male listeners. Yeah, man, listen to the show. Hey, I heard your show the other day. Thanks. Yeah, we have men who call in and try to take the women's prizes and all, and I can't be down. Hey, if you call in, you get a prize, you get the prize. And then, of course, you have some men who tell me, hey, my wife has have the radio blasting, so I have no other choice but to listen. But I like what y'all must be saying. Y'all need to have other shows like this. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, so last week, we had with us in studio Coach Meltoria Woodside, and guess what? We had I call her sidekick, co-host, producer. She's everything. Assistant, she's everything. Odessa was with us too, and she was just blasting. I was like, Odessa, you need your own show, man. We're talking about whether or not a woman should confront her husband's sweetheart. Now, of course, our answer was no. But you do have some women who say that, hey, I've been led to go ahead and confront this lady because there are some things that I want to share, or there are some questions I want to ask. And then you have some people who just want to say, okay, well, I want you to know that I have forgiven you. My husband has moved on, X, Y, Z. And then the sweetheart would say, I apologize. I've only heard that once, so I can't say some, but I've heard the story of that actually happening. So, of course, if you're led, go ahead and do so. Don't make sure you're led, and make sure it ain't just, your belly growling and you're trying to figure out if it's the Lord or your stomach. No, none of that. All right. So, I'm going to read something real quick before we get into today's show. If you want to watch last week's show, you can go ahead to Your Lane. You can go ahead to YouTube and type in Your Lane episode 69 and watch it. Go ahead and watch it. There's a poster that said something to that particular show. She said, what my thoughts are according to Proverbs 5, verse 3 and 4. It says, for the lips of an immoral woman drip honey, but in the end, she is bitter as wormwood. So really, she should not be called sweetheart, but rather bitter heart, as the scripture indicates. Her lips are sweet and slick as oil, but her feet go down to death and lay hold of hell. Nothing sweet about that heart. Women who are in this situation, please repent. Release the men and give your lives and hearts to Jesus. He is the best lover you will ever have. And guess what? I promised her that I would read it on today's show. And she said what she said. All right. So if you want to go ahead and read and watch the show, That's episode 69. Should I confront the sweetheart? All right. Now, for those of you and the people who you know who may have issues with, um, you know, what's the best way I can put this? Showing up or performing in the bedroom. You have, self-esteem or, low confidence or, any of that sort. If you have a friend, a neighbor, or someone who you know who's telling you, hey, how do you, how do you be aggressive or assertive in the bedroom? How do you use whips and chains? And if you do use them, I mean, what, I have someone said to me, actually, I have to drink in order for me to really be assertive in the bed. Now, you do what you got to do, but you know what I mean? You don't really necessarily have to get to that point. You do have some introverts who just ain't into that. So the confidence level is extremely low. But of course, we have someone that can talk to us a little bit more about that. All right. So I need you to tag your friend, tag all the wives you know, tag all the ones, especially the ones that you know who may be shy or who may act shy in public. I mean, that don't really make a difference, right? Because you can act shy in public and be wild, in the bedroom. So tag them anyway and share this to your page because we need to enlighten some women. We want to help some women out. We want to help them to know a little more about their bodies. We want to help them with knowing a little bit more about um, what is required, what God says, because there's an interesting book that my guest has that I really wanted to talk about, what God says about certain things, and what to do in the bedroom, and so much more. So please go ahead, tag and share the page so that we can ensure that as many women that are tuning in can know, and the men, of course, and the men in their lives can know, how to be more successful in the bedroom. All right. So, those who may be listening or tuning in via Facebook, if by chance that you have to leave, you can go to star 106.5 FM dial on the radio or channel 976 for those who are in their homes, because we have some women who say, I'm not on Facebook. Fine. Channel 976 is right there for you. And for those who are tuning via radio and going inside the house, you can go and watch us live on Your Lane Life Coaching Facebook page. I'm excited about today's show because this person has been with us so many times, and for the times that she's been on, um, it's always enlightening, it's always engaging. She comes with her expert advice, and women learn a lot. All right. So, my predictions for this episode, I would say about 80% aha moments. I don't predict any teardrops today, and 20% laughter just because of who she is. All right. I'm already laughing. Your Lane, episode 70, Building Sexual Confidence, is brought to you by Airborne Freight and Cargo Services, John's Shoe Store and Accessories, Your Lane Life Coaching, Bahama Odds and Ends Party Supplies, and Carlia Alashante. Carlia Alashante carries the latest in sexy, exotic lingeries, costume and adult novelties, ladies and men intimates up to size 4X. They also carry Bath and Body Works and Victoria's Secret sprays. They provide discreet and confidential delivery service right at your front door. You can contact Carlia Alashante at 434-6910. That's 434-6910, or visit them on Facebook and Instagram. Now let me spell the name out for you, just in case you'd be like, Kalawa? Yes. Carlia Alashante is spelled it's on the screen. For those who are listening on the radio, it's spelled Carliyah. That's one word. The next word is Alashante, Allishante. So go and visit them on Facebook. You'll have a better appreciation of the various products and services that they have to offer. Now let's get in the groove. Let's get excited about this particular guest. Let's see what she has to offer today. Her name is Tammy. Tamika Lacroix. She is a sexual health and wellness educator. She earned her certification from the Center for Sexual Health Promotion, School of Public Health of Bloomington, Indiana University. Tammy is an intimacy and relationship coach and the CEO of Sexually Saved LLC. Sexually Saved is an organization to help individuals of the Christian faith to understand God and sexuality. She promotes this through her podcasts, workshops, books, and speaking engagements. Tammy is happily married and a mother of 3 children. She is also an author, obviously, of 4 new books that she created. I think she wrote this year, right? And one in particular that is ready to be released. This is the one, the juicy one that I want to discuss a little bit about. And it's called Hey God, Can I? Mm. Welcome back, Coach Tammy. It is so nice to see you again.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello.
Hello. And it's so nice to see you. Listen, before we even start, I wanted to wait until later on in the show to talk about the Hey God Can I, but I saw little tidbits of it. I know that you sent some emails out where you were showing like little introductions of what the book is about,
Yes.
and stuff like that. I want us to talk a little bit about that first before we get into who you are, what you do, because we know you've been here like 3 times. So for those who don't know you, we can talk about who she is after. But I want to talk about this book real quick.
So listen, this book has pretty much everything it is that you need as a faith-based person, right? To elevate your bedroom. It's called Hey God, Can I? And what it is an ABC guide of various sexual acts to help you elevate your bedroom. And the reason why I wrote it, right, is not because I wanted to tell you what to do in the bedroom, but the reason why was because I wanted to give individuals a resource so that they are able to, find out information about the various questions that they have. Because one thing that I know, especially within the faith-based community, is that they are, they get anxiety thinking about what is okay, what's not okay, right? Am I allowed to do that? Because at the end of the day, they want to make sure that whatever they're doing is pleasing to God, right? They don't want to go against principles and whatnot. And so I created this book to give as a tool or resource so that individuals will be able to understand, okay, how can I apply something in my marriage? Is this okay? What does God have to say about this specific act, right? It also gives you a guideline. It's not saying that you can do something or you can't do something. It's giving you the tools that you need so that you can make that informed decision, because it has I created the U test, right? It's the undefiled test, which you and your partner can do so that you're now communicating on what you can implement on your specific bedroom.
I love it. And the reason why I wanted to start on this first is because this has a lot to do with building sexual confidence. Because by chance, you may feel intimidated by using a particular item or an enhancer in the bedroom. You may feel a particular way about introducing something, rather, within the bedroom. And because you feel uncomfortable about it, your confidence, of course, is little to none, right? So, or and in other words, or and let's say in retrospect, your husband may want to introduce something, and because he's doing this or including something, a product or whatever have you, once again, as the woman, your confidence is little to none, simply because you'd be like, I don't know if I want to try this, I don't know if this works for me or whatever have you. So I'm glad that this book was written, because it helps a lot with that. Now, if you can you remember at least 1 or 2 questions, or maybe 2 of the most I wouldn't say significant, or most popular questions that you have been asked pertaining to the bedroom?
Hey God, can I masturbate?
Oh.
Right? That's a big one, because people have there's a misconception about, am I able to touch myself? Right? So that's a very popular one. Another one is, hey God, am I allowed to implement, things like BDSM? Right? People want to know whether or not they can do bedroom play? Am I allowed to use handcuffs? Am I allowed to, have fantasy play? Am I allowed to, use sex toys? It's so many questions that I get, but the top is masturbation, sex toys, anal sex. These are the top three that I always get. But I mean, it's a list from A to Z that's answering all these various questions.
I love that. But you notice you ain't answered none of them yet, right? So can you answer one or two of them for me? As far as let's start with toys. As far as toys are concerned, what would you suggest if someone come and ask you, hey, can I have toys in the bedroom?
Well, see, this is the thing about toys, right? There's nothing wrong with using toys. However, there's caveats with that, right? A lot of the reasons why we feel the way we feel is because of the ideas that we have around sex. What is it that we have learned prior to this moment, right? Because this has formulated the ideas around sex, how we interact with it, right? And so when it comes to sex toys is okay if you haven't struggled with certain issues, right? Like if you've had like a certain addiction prior to you'd want to stay away from toys. But if you have a healthy marriage, if you and your spouse are wanting to implement toys to, join in the experience to enhance your relationship, there's nothing wrong with it.
So it's not demonic.
It's not demonic. It's not demonic to use toys. Now, when you think about the origin, right? You always have to look at the origin of things. So sex toys is one of those. It's kind of like if you go way back into like the Roman area and the Greek and, way back in the Bible, they used to use paraphernalia. They used to have like, these phallic shaped objects that they used to worship and things like that. Right. But we're not using it for worship. It's kind of the same when you're thinking about things like Kama Sutras and are you using this item to worship another god? Essentially, it's almost like when you think about tattoos. People get tattoos today. Back in biblical days, they would do tattoos to worship gods and things like that. And you see people getting tattoos and they're getting piercings and things like that. So it's how you use something. It's the motive, it's the intent, right? So there are so many different factors that play a role in whether or not you're going to implement something in the bedroom. And you have to think about these things. Like, what is the motive of us using this item? How is it going to enhance the bedroom? Is it going to allow us to be one? That's one of the things that you and your spouse need to discuss before you implement anything in the bedroom. You have to have the conversations, right? And so like in the book, I have it's called the undefiled test, where you asking each other questions. Is it going to benefit the marriage? Right? Is it something that goes against God's morals? Does it go against his principles? Is it going to allow us to become one? Right? Is it going to be both enjoyable for us? Are we both in agreement with this particular act that we want to implement? So once you have these discussions to find out, are we in agreement with all of these different things? Then we can know whether or not we need to implement something within our bedroom.
Right. Which of course would help boost confidence, right?
Yeah, all of this boosts confidence. Now, confidence, it goes very wide, right? Because there's so many different reasons. I always find that it's very interesting that people of faith, right? We have the highest rate of sexual dysfunctions within our marriages. Out of all the people, it's people of faith. And it goes back to so many different factors, right? We're not educated properly. We have religious dysmorphias, right? We have these religious beliefs in our head that hinders us from moving forward within the bedroom, based off of what we've been groomed into, what we've been told. You're taught to stay away from the sex, right? And then you get married, and then all of a sudden everything is supposed to change, right? And it doesn't work like that. Like, you can't just turn off and on the switch. Like, nothing prior, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to just go off like a light bulb, right? And then you're supposed to swing. It doesn't work like that. Right?
I love how you said that, because the previous shows that we've done together, there were a lot of women who said, I was not taught, first of all, to discuss sex, because sex is so sacred. Women don't come and talk about sex. Women, that's taboo, firstly. And secondly, they're saying, the church isn't saying anything about this and what should be done and what should not be done. So I don't know if it's right. Right. What I mean? So I'm happy that we have an opportunity to discuss this. So hopefully somebody, can be delivered from even their mindset,
Right.
mentality of thinking, okay, it's a bad thing, it's dangerous, it's not something that you should be doing. I know a couple that believes that they're not doing anything. Well, I won't say the couple, the wife, who would not use any other position except the what do you call that one with the laying on the bed on
Missionary.
the missionary. She
So,
ain't doing nothing else but
yeah.
missionary.
Yeah.
And she's a church woman.
Yeah.
But the husband complaining.
Yeah. And you kind of wonder why she's at that level, right? People like that are struggling sexually. They're struggling to break free. You should not feel uncomfortable about changing around positions, right? Sex is about exploring, right? One of the things that people don't understand is God's desire for us to have sex. Even when you think about scripture, he gives us parameters to not do it. Mm-hmm. Right? We know that men are very sexual beings. That's how they connect with us emotionally. But we're emotionally charged in order to engage, right? But he says that if you refrain from this, then you have to come into agreement, right? He gives us parameter. He gives us instructions to not do it because he understood that men wanted to do it so much. So he already understood that we were going to have a lot of sex, right? And so if we know that we're going to be having sex all the time, that means that we're going to get bored if we're doing the same thing over and over again. Sex is about growing and learning someone. So if you're doing the same thing over and over, how are you learning each other? How are you learning your spouse? Why are you afraid to be uncomfortable? What is that saying about the relationship? If I can't move forward out of this one position, what is that saying about me? That's mindset. That's limited beliefs, right? You have to know that God wants you to explore your bedroom because this is how you grow in intimacy. This is how you grow in God. This is how you learn various things. The Bible says that, when we do certain things, there are mysteries that are revealed. Mm-hmm. What more mysteries can you see when you are engaging in a sexual experience with your spouse, right? You get to go deep. You get to explore, you get to enjoy, you get to embody God and all these different things. You want to stay right there in a missionary position, girl, you better flip over and turn around.
Come on. Tell her. I hope she listening.
You're missing out. Mm-hmm. You're missing out, but God wants you to. He gave you, listen, one of the things that I always tell people is before Satan came in the garden, right? Mm-hmm. Eve had a clitoris. That clitoris is already there. What we know about the clitoris is it is the only organ that we have as women that is for pleasure. The only purpose that it serves is pleasure. That's it. Nothing else. So God wants us to be pleased within our sexual experiences. It's not an evil thing. It's something that's created as a gift. Enjoy the gift. You don't frown when you open in a presents. You're excited about it, right? You happy? Open that gift.
Open the gift. Pun intended? No pun intended. Open the gift. Open the gift.
Open that gift.
So I love the excitement and the energy that I get from you, even with you talking about sexual health and informing us about how to know our bodies and love our bodies, etc. Tell me, where did this drive come from? What was the reason and purpose for you to study sexual health and wellness versus any other thing to really study or to focus on?
Wow, like that's such a good question, right? Because I was studying law, right? I was getting ready to go to school to be an attorney, mm-hmm. Got an acceptance letter and everything, but my spirit just couldn't settle, right? And this actually was birthed out of trauma. Okay. Wow. So I think it was probably about 8 years old. That's when I first started getting molested. Right. And then that grew into unhealthy sexual habits. It was happening so often that I thought that this was normal behavior. I thought that this was something that was happening that was normal in my life. And then fast forward, I have this unhealthy relationship that's forming. I'm starting to watch porn. I'm starting to do all these different things. I'm starting to understand these, the concept of like the Pandora box was open. And then I get raped at 13, and then I'm getting molested some more. And I had such an unhealthy relationship as it relates to sex that I didn't understand what was happening with me. Right. And so I turned into this hypersexual person. So I was having sex all the time with whoever, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like I was having sex a lot. And I didn't understand what was going on with me, but I was doing it as a way to take charge of my body, take charge of my life, because it was happening so often that I wanted to be the first. If I'm gonna engage, let me be the first to engage, because in my mind I was understanding that this was going to be something that was going to be taken from me anyway, right? And so I wanted to take charge of my life in that aspect. And then fast forward, I get saved. And now the story changes from I had that colorful past, and now all of a sudden it's time to shut it down. But there's no healing that takes place. It's just put a halt to it. But internally, I was struggling a lot, right? And then here comes husband. I get married. And all the things that I used to do prior, it was almost like, why am I afraid to do this? Why can't I explore my bedroom? Why am I feeling shame and guilt attached to this? Right. And so I went on this journey because something just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. And I wanted to understand what was going on with me. Why am I afraid to move around in the bedroom? Why am I afraid to explore? And then I started learning about God and how he how he created sex, and how he wanted us to explore sex and learn about him and all these various things. And then I started to become a little bit more open. And so I went to my husband and I told him, I think I'm trying to get into the sex business. You know what I mean? And he didn't know what I was talking about, because I woke him up at like 3:00 in the morning, and he's like, okay, whatever. And then the next day I started the business.
Wow. So in starting the business, of course, this is before you actually went and studied, or you started with just like selling products first?
I started studying. The next day I enrolled in a course, and then it went from there. I started selling like sex products. I started selling sex toys. And what I was learning was that I would have these events, and women would come over and I would have one-on-one conversations with these people, individuals of faith. And then they would start sharing with me their problems. They would start sharing with me that, they're having these issues going on. They're not having orgasms. Some of them would have been married for like 30 years, 20 years. And they're having all of these problems as it relates to their sexual life. A lot of them were just not being pleased. They didn't have desires to have sex. Like, it was so many things going on. I'm like, what is going on? And that's when I started to like do a deep dive, because I really wanted people to be helped with the problems that they have, because especially within the faith-based community, they don't go to anyone. No. Right? They don't talk to anyone. You could talk to anybody about, what you have going on as it relates to the children aid. They're acting up, these bills, but when it comes to I'm struggling with a sexual problem, they're going to keep that quiet. Right. And so they started inboxing me, they started pulling me to the side when we would go out somewhere, and I'm supposed to be enjoying myself. And they have me in the closet because they too scared to have a conversation, in public about the sexual issues that they have going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt that one. And this is that is what caused you to push even more,
to push even more.
Want to delve in or dive into more, information about our bodies and stuff like that. Because I've heard a few of your presentations. They were just remarkable. And the questions, so many questions. I know there was a lady that spoke about, her body, and, she's a little overweight, and her issue is having to, initiate sex, or to be assertive, or to be sexy. She has issues with feeling sexy. So it messes with her psyche. It messes with her mind, even when her husband tells her that, hey, you're beautiful. Right. I love all of your curves. I love everything about you. It doesn't move her. And she has issues in her bed simply because of her weight. So how would you talk to someone regarding that?
That's a good question, because what we don't understand is that 91% of women struggle with a body issue, right? So that's the first one. is understanding that, you know, a lot of us struggle with body issues. That's a reason. That's like one of the number one reasons why individuals lack confidence. They lack confidence in their bodies. But this is an internal issue, right? You have to learn how to affirm the body that you have. That's what I always tell individuals. You have to affirm the body that you have. Yes, you might not like everything about it, right? Yes, there may be some things that you want to change, but right now this is who you are. And so you have to get in the motion of learning to like yourself. You have to learn to love yourself. And this is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. You have to begin affirming the areas that you do love. You know, you have to, you know, affirm those consistently and daily. Read scripture like you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Like you have to repeat to yourself. You have to grow with yourself. You have to understand what pleases you, right? One of the things that I love to tell my people is understand what you like and what you don't like. Learn your pleasure points. When you learn what pleases you, what excites you, right? This gives you confidence. This gives you confidence to grow in your body. Look at yourself in the mirror. There are so many women that will not even look at themselves. So many, they don't even know what their own clitoris looks like, right? You have to look at yourself and affirm who you are, right? And do that consistently over and over and over again. This is when you're limited because you can't do a certain act or because you feel something about your body. That's a mental thing. That's a limited belief. It has nothing to do with your spouse. Your spouse, they love the curls, they love the rolls, okay? They don't mind them as much as you do, but you have to like that. You have to affirm who you are.
Yeah. So what else do you consider as issues that women have regarding, you know, their confidence in the bedroom? Other than, of course, we get the weight. What else is there? What are some of the things that you encounter or hear?
Lack of knowledge, not knowing what they like, going back to that. And I know we've spoken about this before, but there are so many women that don't know what they like when it comes to the bedroom. And because of that, they lack the confidence, right? Understanding pleasure points, how to use your body senses to understand who you are. They're not spending enough time with themselves to learn these things. Understanding where are my body parts, right? Not knowing what there are. What excites you? We put a lot of we put a lot of responsibility on men to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. But at the end of the day, women, we are responsible for our own orgasms, right? There is this orgasm gap, right? Where men are 95% of the time they are having orgasms, okay? Women 69% of the time. There's a 30% gap.
That's a huge gap.
There's a huge gap. And a lot of it is because you can go to the hair salon and you can tell your hairstylist, this is the type of hair that I want.
Yeah.
But you can't tell your spouse what it is that you want him to just figure it out. It's not his responsibility to read your mind. He's not going to know unless you tell him. But if you don't know, how do you tell him? You have to learn yourself. You have to understand your body, right?
I love that. You have to understand and know your body. Guess what? We're going to take a quick break. This break needs to be quick beats because we want to know more about how to understand your body and learn your body. Because you made a point. You said you have to know your body. I mean, I know from preschool we learn these are our fingers, these are our toes, this is this and whatever. So I want you to elaborate a little bit more after this break. How do you get to learn and know your body without having to masturbate? Because there is a book that talks about when you learn in your body, you touch yourself and stuff. And I'm not certain if that's what you're referring to. Well, let's hear about it right after this break. Awesome. So to our Facebook audience, thank you so much for tuning in with us today on Your Lane Talk Show. Tammy, thank you so much for tuning in and keeping us informed about how to know and learn our body. So we're just going to take a break. And if you have anything to say during this break, you can go ahead and do so.
I mean, I got a lot.
It's going to let me know that it's time. But yeah, so this is what is much this is needed because we want to be able to know, we want to enjoy sex. As you said, God has given us this gift of sex. It shouldn't be where we as women be rolling our eyes when the husband say, come, let's go, or let's do something, and we don't want to. I'm sure one of the most intricate things about sex is communication. And you're the expert, so I'm going to give you a chance to elaborate on that right after the break. Welcome back. If you are just tuning in, we have with us Tammy Lacroix. She's Coach Tammy Lacroix. She's an intimacy coach, and of course, we're talking about building sexual confidence. And just before we were on a break, we were talking about getting to know our bodies, getting to know what pleases us or what makes us desirable, or what causes us to be stimulated, right? And so, of course, before that break, I was like, okay, how do we get to learn it by ourselves? Do we do it by ourselves? How is that done, Coach Tammy?
Well, this goes in what we were talking about finding pleasure, right? Looking in the mirror and looking at your body, touching your body. You can touch without engaging in masturbation, right? You can learn your organs. You can learn where the clitoris is, the difference between the vulva and the vagina, where the G-spot is. Like getting knowledge and information about things that could potentially please you when you engage in sex. It always surprises me because so many women come to me and they're like, I'm not having orgasms from penetration alone. I need the toy. And the reason why they say that is because the clitoris is what gives you, or 80% of women require clitoral stimulation in order to have those orgasms, right? So they can't orgasm by penetration alone. But if they don't know this, right, then they're going to go time and time and time and time again without having them. So things like that. And when they do learn, they're like, oh, is this something as simple as a clitoris? Well, now let me guide my spouse to the clitoris so that he knows this is what's going to give me the orgasm that I need, right? So it's about feeding yourself the information and learning, understanding these various things so that you can, have the full experience.
I love that. You have to know, you have to get the knowledge, knowing, and I can say that another way of doing this, other than doing it yourself, is to explore with him, right?
Absolutely.
So you're telling him, as he's touching, I told you, this should be fun, man. Sex should be so much fun. Like y'all are literally doing experiments like every single time y'all come together. I don't care. You could be married for about 50 years or so. There's always something to discover in the bedroom. I like
100%.
Oh, because every single time, especially with in my relationship, it's always something new. I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
and we're always changing.
Right?
And then we're always changing.
And it's always changing. And things are, and then of course, during the break, the Facebook audience was able to hear me say this. I said, communication is also important. So if by chance that you're doing, you're exploring and you're touching and you're trying to figure out what works from what doesn't work, you share it. You literally share it. This feels good. This does not feel good. This makes me uncomfortable. These are the type of things to help you. So when you go to the next round or second time around, right, then you both will know what to do, right? Let's talk about talking in the bedroom. Let's talk about that, because some people don't like it and some people do. Some people feel uncomfortable, some people don't. And then you have some people who like the nasty talk, the fresh talking, and some people
dirty talk.
The dirty talk. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. One of the issues that people have is communicating. People are afraid to communicate with their spouses what it is that they do like, right? And so you have to build up to learn how to communicate to your spouse in his language sometimes, right? And the same, like you have to learn how to speak the language of your spouse to communicate your needs to them, your likes to them, things like that. But as it relates to dirty talk, like I'm all for dirty talk. I'm like, talk the talk, right? People like it. Some people don't. people are uncomfortable with it. And so for those who are, sometimes they don't do it just because they are uncomfortable, right? And so dirty talk is not just talking all the time. So if you are in a state of discomfort, right? I always say start small, right? Start using elevated sounds, right? Because
you gotta say these things. You need to demonstrate, or you need to.
Yes, you
Let's
can
hear 'em.
use you can use elevated sounds. Like you could be like,
Okay.
right? You can play with sounds like right? Or
This
ohs,
feels
like
good.
using like moanings. It's like the moaning. You can play with your sounds in a playful way. Like if you are afraid to use words, use moans until you get there. And you can use moans in a way that is very playful. It's fun when you get in, like it's a performance. You have to always remember that sex is a performance. When you're with your spouse, it's a performance. So begin acting like, right? And go like use those elevated, say words. You can start with one word. You can use one single word, right? Like, yes. You can use words to kind of describe what it is that you want, to give directions. Like you can say like harder, faster, slower, softer, right? That's all a part of dirty talk. You can, once you get comfortable, you can start growing into, affirmations. You can use affirmations during sex. It's something empowering when you're telling your spouse, there's something about these hands. There's something about these hands, right? Like, don't be afraid to try and experiment and use different things in the bedroom, using voices, using words, using descriptive words, right? You can say something like, it feels so good, like when you're touching on my, like this right here is hitting the spot. It's making me wet, right? Like don't be afraid to say stuff like that, because it likes it. It builds anticipation when you use words, and it also makes it fun. It makes you in the moment. It makes you present in the moment. It allows you to be engaged, right?
Not only that you're feeling it, because as you're saying it, it does something to you, but it is so important to your mate. Like especially men, because they like to hear those things. They like the
Yeah.
affirmations. They like, that's a part of their ego. Like, I need to know I'm the man. I got this.
Yeah. Come on,
I'm
daddy.
hitting this. You know
Bring it
what I
on,
mean?
daddy.
So you gotta boost
And it also
ego.
lets them know that you're in the moment. Like it lets them know that you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
keep
can't
doing it. Keep going.
you can't be in the missionary position and you just
And you
laying
just
back
quiet.
and you just quiet. Come on, man. And
You
any
just quiet.
position and you just quiet.
Like what is that?
What is that?
What is that?
So listen, and I don't mean to bring this up, but I kind of sort of have to. Just a few shows ago, we had some women who claimed to be the other woman, right, on our show. And I have to I'm sorry if anyone takes offense to this, but do you know that one of the many reasons, because there are many, but one of the reasons why men go out on their women or go to cheat or on their women, because the other woman is doing exciting things. The other woman is dressing up more. The other woman is making noises in the bedroom and being excited about. The other woman is not afraid of oral sex.
Right.
So
that's a question I get too.
I had to go there. So let's talk to Coach Tammy. What are your thoughts on oral sex?
Why are you not doing it? Like what is the thought process that you have that limits you from pleasing your spouse? It's a part of his body. This is a part of the creation that God made. And one of the ways that he desires, right, or you desire, is for oral. There's nothing wrong with engaging in oral sex. Like if that's what he likes, stimulate and do the oral, right? There's a stigma that's attached to that. And that's based off of religious beliefs. People feel like they should not engage in oral sex. But where did that thought come from? Where did that concept come from? Right? Now, there is a caveat to that. And I always tell people, only for people who have been through certain trauma or was involved in, like abuse or something like that. Now, for those, that's a completely different story. right? But if that's not a part of your story, then what is it that's limiting you from not engaging in your spouse? Like, God created all of him, just like he created all of you. And so that's one of the ways that you can explore each other. So don't be afraid. Like, his body is not disgusting. You are not disgusting, right?
And even if you think it's disgusting, like you had a long day and everything ain't right, go take a shower together.
Take a
Okay?
shower
Take
together.
a bath together. If that's what would help boost your confidence, whatever it is that
Exactly.
would help to boost your confidence, go ahead and do it. All
100%.
right?
100%.
And what are some other things that women can do to help to build their sexual confidence?
Well, they can learn to appreciate their spouse, right? We already talked about education.
Mm-hmm.
Getting education is key.
Key.
Learning to appreciate their spouse, learning to understand them. A lot of the reasons why women lack confidence is because they're uncomfortable with the idea of exploring. And so this also has to do with learning about God. Learn a little bit more about God and why his desire is for you to engage in sex in the first place, right? Learning about God and understanding who he is, that helps you to build your confidence. People are not reading and they're not studying their word. And then I know it sounds a little, but when you have a disconnect between you and God, it's going to lead to a disconnect between you and your bedroom.
Absolutely.
Right. And so because you don't understand why God wants you to connect in the first place, it allows you to feel that lack of confidence, right? Because you're not exploring, you're not learning, you're not growing. And that's because your foundation is shaky. Your foundation is shaky.
I love that. Let that sit. Sila, let that sit in for a little while. Let that marinate, right? Let that marinate. I want to go touch a little bit about trauma. We know that in some cases you have some women who do not, as you've stated, want to indulge in certain acts or do certain things because of past experiences. And so, how do you speak to women regarding that? Men may feel a certain way that hey, she reacts when I do this, but I don't understand why. So what's one of the first? Well, I guess you're going to tell me all of them of what you can remember that you can tell a woman if she's experiencing trauma in the bedroom.
Understanding what makes you triggered, right? And being able to communicate that to your spouse. Now, when somebody has been traumatized because of a previous sexual experience, there is a pace that they have to go. And sometimes everybody's pace is a little bit different. And sometimes you don't know your triggers until you're in the moment and something is triggering you. So with those situations, you have to understand what is causing me to be triggered right now in this moment. And how do I grow past this? And so that's a matter of communicating with your spouse, like, hey, we were in this act and you did something that triggered me a little bit, right? Like he might have been a little bit rough, right? But not intentional. And that might have triggered. And so that's where you have to speak to your spouse and say, this act triggered me. And his response to that should be, let's work through this. Right. So it's just a matter of figuring out what is causing the trigger right now and how do I grow past it? You have to be mindful and understand the triggers. And when you're in the moments where you are being triggered, keep an account of that. Keep an account of that so that you can create your own plan on what needs to happen so that when you're being triggered, you understand how to respond to it.
Can we go back to something that you said? You said the man is not responsible for a woman's orgasm. I never knew that. I always thought that, hey, like you said, you have to perform. I think in my situation, we perform, like we try to outdo each other. So because we try to please each other, we end up pleasing ourselves. You know what I mean? Like we're both satisfied. Not all the time it's like that, obviously, because you have your this one for you moment, hey, that one for you, because
Yeah.
but you have moments where, and this is how it should be, but obviously we know it's not always necessarily so, where I'm doing this for you, and then the other party is like, I'm doing this for you,
Right.
so you're right, and so we end up just both satisfied. I said so much that I forgot what I was saying. What I was saying, Tommy, because I forgot what I was saying. I forgot
You
my
were
point.
saying that the women are responsible for their own
Yeah,
orgasm.
that's important.
The men are going to get their orgasms, right? Men get their orgasms from penetration, right? But women,
Well, you
we
have
have to
some
put
men
in a little
who,
bit.
you have some men who, they do the little bit. That don't mean that it was just that.
95% of the time, research says that penetration, they're going to have an orgasm. So you only have a 5% where they're not, right? Or there's going to be a moment where they might not, right?
Well, they may not
But
enjoy it. They may make, because anything will cost them to ejaculate, but it doesn't mean
exactly, that's the whole point, right? But women, we have life going on. We got kids, we got chores, we got church meetings, we got groups, we got the baby crying here, we got to prepare dinner, we got to do the dirty clothes, we got to walk the dogs, we got to feed the cats, we got to take our parents to the doctors. We have a lot of things going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we have to be more intentional as it relates to the orgasms that we have, because, sex, the brain is the number one sex organ that we have. Right. And so we have a lot of things going on in our brain. And so we can't rely on them to give us orgasms when we have 1,000 things going on within our brains.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we have to figure out, okay, how do I be present in this moment and not allow all of these different things that I have going on in my head to hinder me? Because one of the things that I've learned is that, men, they could go to Pound Town and it could take them an hour before you get to your orgasm because you have so many things going on in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But they only need one good 2-3 minutes. And
so how can we do this? You said, how do we turn it off? Well, how do we get that? I gotta feed the cat. Did I change the baby pampers today? The thoughts that go in our minds continuously during this time, how do we shut them down?
So the way that you shut it down is being mindful, being intentional, and preparing from the start of the day. And this is where men come into play, because sex doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins at the start of the day. And so women, we don't want to feel like we're an object, right? And so you can't be busy all day, don't text me all day, and then when it's come time to come home, right? What you do? Let's go. No, it don't work like that. You have to bring your mind, and it's a process of time. It's a part of foreplay. We need foreplay. We need active foreplay in order to be engaged. So one of the ways that you can is foreplay. Foreplay allows you to get mentally prepared for you to be engaged when it's time for you to have sex.
Can I also suggest, even let's say he's not home as yet, and he wants to do something, because every woman know the timing for our men, because it ain't gonna be. Sometimes it's every day, earlier part of the marriage when he was younger, and then there are days when it's every other day or every whatever have you. So if he had sex with you on Sunday, y'all were intimate on Sunday, by Wednesday he coming back to you, right? So if you know that this is what he's gonna do, hook or crook, he gonna find you. Then you have to try to keep your mindset, try to build that desire inside of you as well.
Of course.
For instance, I see Beats nodding his head at me. For instance, maybe taking a nice warm bath, right? Shaving your legs, putting body oil on you, playing music, candles or whatever have you to get you there.
100%.
There might be sometimes moments when he's not gonna call you and text you in the day. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. I see Beats doing this. So we're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to go back into how we can build sexual confidence. We have a lot of people behind Beats right now that is tuning in. And they have a lot of questions. So we're going to ask them. They could come ahead and ask their questions if they want to right after this break. Guys, if you have any, we have how many of them? 1, 2, 3. I think 3 or 4. You all have any questions that you want to ask pertaining to building sexual confidence? Anything? I remember one time Beats was asking about, what is it, spurting? That's what he was talking about. Beats, remember that? Yeah, well, we have someone who went against or opposed what the answer you got, because you did get an answer from a gynecologist, right? And now this is an intimacy coach that opposes what the gynecologist said. Yes. You want her to say it? Okay, she's gonna say it. So right after this break, we'll allow you to talk about that. Anything else you want to know? Good. Good. That's funny. You're going against a gynecologist. I can't wait to hear this. I can't wait to hear this. I mean, everybody has their different views, but then at the end of the day, you know, it's your body.
Well, I mean, squirting is a scientific fact. There's actually research that's out there that shows.
We can talk about
right?
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back. So during our break, you know, Beats reminded me, or I reminded him of a question that was asked, that was posed to one of my previous guests who happened to be a gynecologist. And the question is, do women squirt? So one of the questions I wanted to ask Beats is how you know they squirt. What do you see? What have you been watching?
What you mean?
What you mean?
What you mean? Squirting is female ejaculation, right? It's female ejaculation. So the same way that men can ejaculate, female can also ejaculate. That's what our bodies can do. Now, a lot of times, I see the giggling, right? A lot of times, you know, it's that peeing sensation. That's what I always refer it to. You know how you might be in the middle of the act and you might have this peeing sensation, like I gotta pee, stop. What that really is you getting ready to ejaculate. So if you push past the pee sensation, then out of it will come female ejaculation, right? So let me
right now. You should see.
So let me just explain it a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So the bladder, it stores water, okay? It stores water in the bladder. And what research shows is that the water is not, well, it's just water in the bladder until it is mixed up with the compounds from the kidney. That's when it becomes pee. Mm-hmm. But you can't be aroused and pee at the same time, which is why there's a difference, right? So when you are aroused, the bladder begins to fill itself with water. And the reason why it feels like the peeing sensation is because what happens is you're using those same muscles that, well, the bladder, it uses the same muscles as you would if you were peeing. That's why it feels like I gotta pee, but it doesn't mix with the urine. What it mixes with is called the Skene's gland, which is the glands that is responsible for making you wet. It's responsible for the lubrication. So once the bladder starts to release water, the Skene's glands begins to also release water. The Skene's glands is what is called the prostate, right? That's the female prostate. So when those two mix together, that's the water that comes out for the female ejaculation. It's the same with men, right? Men can ejaculate, but they can't pee at the same time, right? So it's the same with women. Women can ejaculate without having to pee. And what's going to come out is water. It's not going to be pee. Now, there's a little bit of traces of urine, but it's not a lot. It's not enough for it to be urine because it's not mixing with the kidney.
Right. You got that, B? That makes sense to you? I just want to make sure that makes sense to you. Okay. All right. All right, Tammy. So I want to go back to, hey, God, can I? But just want to make sure that we understand what's happening now with building our sexual confidence in the bed, especially with women who may have experienced not even trauma from previous relationships or whatever have you, but trauma in their present relationship. For instance, someone who may have their husbands may have stepped out on them, committing adultery, you know, and how does a woman build that back up, that confidence back up, knowing that, you know, their spouse, you know, did something with somebody else, and here it is that they want to please him, but then that, I don't know if this is a mindset, I don't know, I'm gonna let you do, that's your job, go ahead.
Yeah, because one of the reasons, and I call these in my book, I call them blockages, right? And infidelity is a blockage that allows you to be a little bit less confident because you're thinking about all the various things that happens that your spouse did outside of the marriage, right? And that could lower your self-esteem. It could lower your confidence because you're thinking, he did this with this other woman. He did this with this other woman, right? There's a comparison that goes on. And when it comes to that, it's a very long process, a long road to healing. You have to do the inner work. If you're going to decide to stay in a marriage, then you have to commit to the marriage. Otherwise, you might as well leave him. If you're going to stay, then you have to begin a process of your own healing, which means, and I tell people, you have to expose the lies, right? Exposing the lies is an exercise when you're in the middle of the act and you're thinking, I don't want to do this because, I remember him. I'm thinking about him, doing something else with another woman. Expose the lie, right? And be present. The lie is that my spouse is doing things with other women. Be fully present and engaging with your spouse, right? You have to take baby steps in getting there and work on your own healing, because if you don't heal individually, then it's going to be a long process. You're going to be triggered all the time. Every time you engage, you're going to be triggered. So you really have to do the self-work, the inner work, and what's causing me to be triggered in this moment? How do I work on this moment for myself so that I'm not feeling like he's going to be stepping out, so that I can build my self-esteem back up? That's getting back out there and doing your own self-care work, right? Affirming yourself, doing things outside of your spouse that makes you happy, so that you're not relying on that to make you happy.
I love that. I love that. Now let's get in. I can't do all the side questions now. Let's get more of the exciting stuff now. Costumes and lingerie. Hey, costumes and lingerie.
Yes.
Tammy, I getting in your business just for 2 seconds. Have you ever worn a costume in bed?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Why would you not?
I'm just asking.
Why would you do the things that your spouse likes, right? So if he desires you to wear a little piece of lingerie, then wear the piece of lingerie. If he desires you to wear the costume, wear the costume.
Wear the costume.
Right? Do what you and your spouse are one when you're in bed. Exactly. Right? So do things that you enjoy together.
Undefiled. I said, what in the world are they doing in the back there? What it? Okay, all right. This topic is kind of exciting for them. Yeah. So the costumes, like for instance, there's the nurse costume. I mean, I have this box, y'all. There's a nurse costume. There's a maid costume. These are costumes that, I mean, if you both agree, of course, because you don't want to have to do something that your spouse does not desire or whatever have you. Do you think that this is unpleasing to God? Wearing things, because you have some people, well, this is not their identity, and this is not and you bringing in false identity in the bedroom, and that's an open door for Satan.
So why you can't be a nurse, right? Why can't you be, if you desire to wear the nurse costume, why are you not the nurse? Like, just because you put on a costume doesn't mean that you're changing identity. Just be the person you want to be. Right? This is a part when God speaks about imagination, he speaks about unhealthy imagination. We have imagination. It's okay to have imagination.
I say this because fantasy has a very thin line.
It does.
So with fantasy, I just want to make sure. Now, can I also interject and say, if one of you have an issue with fantasy, then I'm sure you would agree to this. Then I don't think that would be something that you would engage in. However, if there is no issue, I think
that's the whole purpose of the U-test. Is it moral? Is it mutually agreeable? Is it mutually enjoyable? Right? So when you're going against these various sexual acts, fantasy play is a part of that. Are you both mutually agreeing that this is okay? Is it going to take you away from the oneness of God? right? You have to think about these things. You can implement things. There is a fine line. However, there's also a line that's okay, right? You can explore. It's okay to explore. Explore. That means try different things. If you want to play the role, play the role. Now, what I can say is if it's going to be sinful in nature, then it's sinful in the bedroom, right?
Mhm.
So anything that you do within your bed should not be sinful. So if it's going to be a sinful act, if it's going to be an immoral act, then it shouldn't be done. But there's nothing wrong with fantasy play as long as you're not crossing that line.
So what was
Now,
go ahead. But I'm trying to think about things that church people talk about. For instance, handcuffs. Child, if you use handcuffs, that's like the devil holding you hostage and you're bound. That's
but
so
but remember I said that the highest rate of people who are dissatisfied with their sexual lives are people in the church. Is because they have this cognitive dissonance, right? Which is the belief that I can't do something and they don't even know where that thought came
came
from.
from. Mm-hmm.
Where did the thought come from? Why can we not use handcuffs? Why can't you be cop and robber, right? If my husband is the cop and like
Sorry.
why? Like it's role play, right? Essentially at the end of the day, it's role play. You're not playing something outside of your marriage. Like you're not thinking about another person, another individual. You're not thinking about, bringing somebody else into the marriage. You're It's you and your spouse. That's it. You and your spouse. So if you and your spouse enjoy pretending to be other people, then be other people, but you are the person, right? If your
Lie.
spouse desires you to be the nurse, then be the nurse, right? That's what I mean by like if he desires you to be the teacher, then be the teacher. You
Put
can
on them
pretend to be a
glasses,
teacher.
girl.
What's wrong with pretending to be a teacher?
Be a teacher.
I'm a teacher today. If that's what you like, I'm a teacher.
Here's
Right?
the ruler. You gotta spank me. Sorry.
Thank
Uh-huh.
you.
Go ahead.
Exactly. Exactly. If it's not sinful if it's not sinful in nature, then it's okay in the bedroom. That goes with, is it moral? Yes.
I love that. I love when we're intimate and the lights are on. You have some people who don't like lights. You have some people who doesn't, it really doesn't matter to them. But one of the reasons why I would recommend lights or when it's, as bright as possible with your mate is so that not only are you exploring with your hands, we're actually looking at each other's bodies. And that is also one, a form of foreplay, and two, you're able to admire, as you've said before, even with people who may feel as if that they're overweight or whatever with their sizes, and men with their hands be able to touch every part, and then for females with men, you touching the curves from the muscles and all these other things. So what are your thoughts with, I mean, like I said, it may not be a difference for some people, but for people to actually look at each other's bodies, what are your thoughts on that? Couples, rather.
When you are looking at each other's bodies, you are learning each other's flaws, right? This brings you closer together. A lot of people, when they don't like the lights turned on, it's just because they lack confidence, right? They have self-esteem issues. They're uncomfortable with something. But this is a way that you can grow with your spouse. One of the ways that you can grow in confidence with your spouse is turning on the lights. The Bible says that we were naked and unashamed. When we are together, we are unashamed and we're naked. Explore that, because that is going to allow you to trust your spouse, right? It's going to build that level of excitement with your spouse. It's going to make you more comfortable, because when you see that your spouse is embracing you in the body that you have, that is going to give you a higher level of confidence, right? And if you are nervous about doing it, this is where you can do it by yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. You have to spend time looking at you and appreciating your own flaws. Yes?
I love it. I love it. All right. And as we're wrapping up now, I want to share briefly on, having to, well, let's recap before I say this, because I don't want to that's a whole new different topic. We spoke about, in order for us to be sexually confident in the bedroom, you have to have knowledge, right? Not only knowing your body, but knowing his body, knowing what works, knowing what ticks. We talk about communication. Communication is very important. I think that should be number one. But the knowledge, yeah, and in no particular order. So let me not say that. So communicate what you like from what you don't like. Communicate what feels good from what doesn't. Make sounds and noises. I don't know if that's a different one, but let's use the third one as um,
Understanding your pleasure.
the pleasure spots, the erogenous zones. There are moments when it may not even be the breast. It may not be the clitoris. It may not be any of those things. It may just be the nape of your back, of your neck. It may be in the back of your knees. It may be just him rubbing against you, just his hands on your, um, just the fingertips.
Yeah. All of those are erogenous zones.
Erogenous zones. And we spoke about, did we talk about foreplay?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, the foreplay, yeah. And
and let me say this real quick.
Go ahead.
With foreplay, women need about 20 minutes or so of foreplay. It's not like an instant thing. Like it's a process of time.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with that, these are things to help boost your confidence. Having to look in the mirror and knowing who you are and being appreciative of your body, affirming yourself so that when you get to hear it from your mate, it's not like, oh, yeah, whatever, you just saying that or whatever. Know yourself first. It's similar to just, when the enemy comes to you and he brings lies, as Coach Tammy would say, when he brings his lies, you're able to say, I am a child of God. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. It's the same thing. So when you're in the bedroom, when you hear those things coming and these thoughts coming in your head, you're like, you know what? I am beautiful. Oh, these girls are, you see the tiger stripes. The tiger stripes is because I am woman. Hear me raw, right? The boobs are a little low because I've been bearing children. They've been, suckling at my mammary glands, just trying to be the nice way of putting things, right?
Right.
So these are things that he should be able to appreciate you just the way you are. He should be able to appreciate that you bore his children.
Right.
If there are issues like that concerning you, and if he's telling you these things, smile, enjoy the moment, enjoy him saying those things to you. Enjoy that. What are some other things that we discussed? Knowing your body, and there's something that you said, getting a mirror to look to see. In what grade was I in? In 7th grade, my aunt brought a book home about puberty, and in that book, it actually showed the picture of the vagina, the female genitals, where the clitoris is, where the opening, the vulva, and all those other stuff were, and it admonished the readers to get a mirror and look for themselves, right?
Yeah.
And the first time that I saw, I was like, that's weird. Why does it look like that? But I had an idea. So okay, so you mean to tell me so the urine doesn't come out the same hole as when a baby comes out? So you're able to know these things. You're able to know, okay, this is where all of the hormones lie. This is where all of the blood vessels are. This is the bad boy that causes the climax, right? It's not down there. It's here, for some women. So knowing yourself and exploring your body and all these other things is vitally important. So once you already know, as Coach Tammy said, what works from what doesn't with you can actually go in and be the boss. You can be in the bedroom and be the boss. Yeah, you already know and you can tell him, this is what works from what doesn't. Let's talk about being assertive.
Yeah.
It's not all the time that we as women. Let's talk, man. This is us having a conversation now. It's not all the time that men would be like, men actually want us to be assertive. Men want us to be the the ones that initiate,
Mhm.
sex. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not just you just sitting there waiting on him to do something. That time he's sitting there waiting on you to do something. Let's talk about that, Tommy.
Yeah, I think this is understanding what your sexual drive is, because we have two: either you're spontaneous or you are intuitive, right? And so when you have a spontaneous sex drive, you're basically on the go. You're ready to have sex at any moment, anytime, which is usually men. Men are turned on by confidence. They are turned on because they want to be desired too,
Yeah.
right? They want to be desired too. And so it is completely okay. Like, they want you to initiate sex. Women just have issues doing it because they feel like it's the men's responsibility to do so, right? And so that's why they don't sometimes. They're uncomfortable with initiating because they don't know how to do it. They're afraid to do it. They're afraid of rejection sometimes. Men are always doing it. And it goes back to, I have a lot going on. But because women, we are responsive, right? Intuitive responsive, right? We usually respond to sex and then we get in the mood. So it's like men would initiate because they're usually the ones that spontaneous. And this fluctuates, but men have a higher rate of being spontaneous. And so it's just a matter of understanding, what kind of sex drive do I have? Am I responsive, meaning that I get in the mood once I'm initiated, which is mostly women? Or am I spontaneous, meaning that I am ready to go at any point in time, right? But that doesn't mean that it doesn't flip. You can be a little bit spontaneous too, but you just have to take the time to do that, right? Women are just afraid to do it. They're scared. They're scared of the rejection. They're used to men doing it, and so they don't, or they just don't want to do it because they got a lot going on. A lot of times, women they're thinking about chores. Their sex feels like a chore sometimes, and so they won't. And so for women like that, I would say try to initiate sometimes in a while. We pursue God, right? Pursue your spouse,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Pursue your spouse the same way that you pursue God, because they desire that too.
Yeah, I love that. And can you stick a pin in there real quick? I want to now flip the script. You have some men who lack confidence in the bedroom too, because we as women reject them as well. I know
Mm-hmm.
this is a women's show, but I have to, this one for y'all, right? I have to tell our women, come on, man, let's get it together. Let's get it together. I mean, what's the reason for rejection? What is the reason for it? It can't be a headache. Because the last show we had, was it the show that I had, last show or whatever? I tell you, intimacy, sexual intimacy, that cures the headaches. I promise you. Try it. And you'll thank me later. Send me an email. Let me know
Yeah.
that it works. I can tell you it works. Honestly, it does.
Yeah,
So you
orgasm,
can,
and it does, and even just thinking about that, the way that the body works together, men, right? Their sperm, when it's the antigens from the sperm, is actually a headache reducer. Like, it reduces stress,
mm-hmm,
right? Built up antigens reduce stress in women, so that's a powerful thing. You want to be stress free, engage in sex.
engage in
It'll
sex.
help. It'll help. It'll help. But when it comes to men and them being rejected by women, a lot of the times it's because it's something that's going on with the woman. So it's a matter of figuring out what's going on with her, right? Sometimes women are having pain and they don't want to have sex. Sometimes it goes back to what's going on in their brain. Were you actively pursuing them, right? Because sex doesn't just begin in the bedroom. What have you been doing with her to allow her to not reject you, right? What are you helping her with, right? Like, she's doing all these different things, but yeah, you sitting home all day. She doing the cooking, the cleaning, the washing the dishes, the feeding the children, and then here you come, I want sex, and then she's like, no, I'm tired, right? How about help her wash the dishes after she
Come
cooks,
on.
or
Yeah,
helping her, feed the children, like balance it out so that she's not feeling the pressure, and then
right.
she'll be more willing to engage in sex. She needs help,
Absolutely. She needs help.
right?
She needs
Yeah.
help. And there are so many other factors though, because we always think that men always think that it's just projection for no reason, like you said. But at the end of the day, it still boils down to communication. So if she's lacking help, then she needs to share it. She needs
Hmm.
to say, "Hey, I need help with this. Can you help me with that?" If
Absolutely.
she's having issues with him not being as romantic, or the foreplay, as we've alluded, starts from the moment we wake up. So The men, of course, that you have, like, we helping y'all, do
Yeah.
the little foreplay prior to the time, from that morning. You gotta caress her hair, to help her out with the kids in the morning. Whatever it is that you need to do beforehand, she notices everything. Don't think that
She
your wife
does.
does not notice.
She
She
does.
notices everything, and she keeps it in. And I can tell you, the happier you make her, the better it is, or easier it is for you to get some. I promise you. Okay, send me an email,
100%.
tell me all about it.
And it does matter too, because I know a lot of men, they feel like all of that is not necessary. Like they don't get it all the time, but it 100% matters, and it will change the response. It will change, like it is a game changer when you are helping her throughout the day, when you are, giving her the affirmations that she needs, when you're
Yeah.
checking in with her, because the checking in is important. That lets her know, hey, he's thinking about me. When you are taking the initiative to help her with things around the house, that relieves the stress, because a lot of times wives are pressured because they have so much things going on. The kids be running around crazy. Okay. That in itself is a lot. So even if you take a moment and say, hey, let me go grab this child while you do this, that relieves pressure. So it's about relieving stress. The Bible says, love your wife in a way that is to satisfy her, right? To please her. So what are you doing to cater to your wife so that she is in a better mood emotionally?
That, and meeting her needs emotionally. That's
Right.
also a good thing for men to put into effect. All right. So you're not just talking to her because you're discussing things about the kids or discussing finances or whatever have you, but you're there and you're present. You're seeing her and you're hearing her. And when she sees those things, of course, it causes her to want to do more. It causes her to initiate, because you're trying to figure out, okay, well, why is she like this, or why is she so standoffish? Could it be, check yourself. I'm not saying that's always you, mind you, because women, we have our issues, we have our hormones, everything happening with us at the same time. But in more, if you do a process of elimination, you get to see that, hey, maybe it's because I'm not doing something, right? And so what I wanted to say for the women, though, that we don't want to tear their confidence. We don't want to pull down their ego in any way, especially with the bedroom, because it'll make it difficult for both of you in the long run. It'll take a longer time for y'all to actually enjoy sex to the point where it's romance or love making versus just tap tap and gone. Because you could get tap tap and go anywhere, right?
Right.
You want to explore
That's the
properly.
intimacy part,
Yeah,
right?
that's
There's a difference
intimacy.
between sexual intimacy and sexual activity. And you want to be emotionally in tune with your spouse.
Yes.
That's the difference. Like you touched it just now, being seen, being heard, right? There's also another component, being valued. Like you need to feel as if that this moment that we're having is a valuable
Matters.
moment. I need to
Mhm.
know that you value this. That goes with honoring the bedroom, honoring each other. There's a different level of effort when it comes to that,
Mhm.
right? So that's the difference. Like
Absolutely.
you have to be more
Absolutely.
engaged.
Be more engaged. Be more engaged, y'all. Okay? That's for both parties. Now, don't stick with the same thing all the time. You can't say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You can't say them things, man. You gotta
No, you
try
can't.
different things, explore different rooms, go different places. Remember the last show we were talking about? If you can go
Going outside,
outside, now, like I said, this the era
game
now where
changer.
we have cameras everywhere, right? So if you want to be famous tomorrow, try to be aware of your surroundings first. Um, look around, okay, before you go and
Don't
get.
go by no ring light, no ring
Don't go.
doors.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. All right. So now that we're wrapping up, Tammy, I want to say thank you so much. I want you to talk a little bit before we leave, about how we can get these books that you've written, especially the one that's upcoming. Maybe they can pre-order, or if they have to, just talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so I do have a wait list going up right now, sexuallysaved.com/join us, where I'm giving everybody updates on when it's going to be released. That's www.sexuallysaved.com/join us. So you can go to my website, join the waitlist. The book is going to be released this year. Right now, it's going through the production process. So as soon as it is out, you will get updates via email, as well as social media. You can follow me anywhere at Sexually Saved on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. And then you will be able to get updates from there as well. And then you'll be able to get a free copy of Chapter 1 if you go to the website and join the waitlist. Chapter 1 is available for you free of charge.
I love that. I love that. Hey God, can I? Hey God, can I? And like I said, I read a little bit of it, and I was like, sheesh, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, the questions that we would think should not be done, like most of them that I asked today. I like how you have scriptural references for them.
Yeah.
I love how you have those things in there. So of course, at the end of the day, you can allow the Holy Spirit to lead you, because what may work for someone may not work for you. What may work in that bedroom with another couple may not work in your bedroom. All right. So I think having to get this book is vital. It's vital.
Yeah.
It needs to be one of those books that you put on the side of your nightstand. Yeah.
Right.
So
Before I implement this, let me find out a little bit of information about this. And I'm just doing that. I'm giving you the resource so that you can look up some of the information yourself. It's right there at your fingertips.
I love that. Now, just tell us once again how to reach you in case anyone have any other questions or may want to consult you in reference to their confidence or any other matter pertaining to sex.
Again, you can reach me on my social media at Sexually Saved on all of the social media platforms. My email is info@sexuallysaved.com, or you can go to my website, www.sexuallysaved.com.
Thank you, Coach Tammy. Thank you for being a part of our show today. And any closing remarks from you?
I just want everybody to understand that, you are enough. God has created you a sexual being. As long as you're human, you are sexual. And so he wants you to enjoy that. He wants you to explore that. He wants you to embody him within your sexual lives. This is something that God desires for you. It is the gift that keeps on giving. Embrace who you are. God wants you to do that. There's no shame attached to sex. There's no guilt attached to it. He wants to make you whole within your sexual experience. My favorite quote from theologian John Piper is that as long as you, my favorite quote is, what's the quote? My mind went blank. Is the ultimate reason why we are sexual is to make God more deeply known.
I love
that. Is my favorite quote, right? So you are learning God within your sexual experiences. You are learning more about him. So embrace that gift, right? Embrace it and just learn. It's okay, right? It's okay.
I love that. Guess what? I have those moments all the time. So I'm so used to that. That's nothing to me. Now, guess what? Next week, y'all. Dun, dun, dun. Next week, I've been trying to get this topic for the past 2 or 3 episodes since this gentleman has been here. But obviously, we wanted to make sure that people were able to get as many questions answered as possible. So now, here's the opportunity for me to introduce the topic that I was trying to get him for the last 2 shows with him, and it's called Spiritual Implications of Pornography. Guess who the guest is? You know who the guest is?
Kevin.
Yes, Pastor Kevin.
We didn't even talk about porn today.
No, we didn't. No, we should have. All right.
I mean, y'all know y'all ain't supposed to do that.
No porn for y'all, okay? No porn, because there's so many different implications as to why it should not be placed in the bedroom. And of course, he's going to come down. He's going to come and talk all about it. Now, get your pen and paper ready from now. Make sure the ink good, because it could be a lot of notes taking place with that. Some couples believe that pornography is needed so you can get to know what positions to do and what not to do. You have some couples who believe that pornography is needed because it helps them to get in the mood. All of these are lies from Satan. Yeah. All of them. Yeah. All right. So of course, if you beg to differ, come tune in next week Sunday. So let's see if we can get to change your mind. I mean, it's not really up to us. We give you the information and we ask the Holy Spirit to take over. Right. So spiritual implications of pornography. with Pastor Kevin L.A. Ewing next week, Sunday. You want to tune in to that. So I want to thank you, Beats, for holding it down as always. We appreciate you so much. And today's show, of course, we thank our listening audience for tuning in. We thank you to say thanks to our Facebook audience who've been tuning in, and so proud of you. Of course, all of the questions that you have, we're going to answer them. I'm asking, or we have already asked Coach Tammy to answer them individually for you. So she's going to type in those answers for you specifically. All right. And so, of course, today's show was brought to you by Airborne Freight and Cargo Services, John Shoe Store and Accessories, Your Lane Life Coaching, Bahama Odds and Ends Party Supplies, and Carlia Alashante. So thank you once again, everyone, for tuning in, for our radio listeners. And of course, if you want to know more about this show or how to sponsor the show, you can contact 1-242-376-8689. That's 1-242-376-8689. Thank you so much for joining us today. Happy Sunday to each and every one of you.